This is Gracious Girl with Jessica Lynn, where real women with real lives take their real struggles and turn them into real successes. And they take their messes and turn them into their messages. Let's get started. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so very excited about the very first show for Gracious Girl with Jessica Lynn. And also, not only that, I'm so excited to have Jamie Taylor on the show today. We are talking about her struggles with infertility, her struggles with her dad's cancer, her struggles with abuse issues, all kinds of struggles. She's just suffered all kinds of struggles, but she's also succeeded. She's turned her mess into a message. It's all great. And also be sure to stay tuned for the end of the show. I may have some bloopers on there, kind of fun. Also be sure to share the show and be sure to continue to watch. Have some other great upcoming shows and upcoming guests. Again, thanks for watching. I'm so excited. Okay, go watch the show. Go listen to the show, whatever. All right, bye. Welcome to Gracious Girls Podcast with Jessica Lynn. I am Jessica Lynn, your host, and today I have Jamie on with me. Welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you. I've been so looking forward to actually be able to talk to you. You want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, your personal, your professional background. Let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Hello, listeners. I'm so grateful that you're tuning in. So my name is Jamie Taylor, and I am a mom of 3 crazy, energetic kiddos, an 8-year-old son and twin daughters who are 7, who I just tucked into bed for the night. I am a devoted mom, and I am also a licensed clinical social worker. I practice, do speaking gigs, and do workshops for young girls, teens, and adult women on teaching them how to own their fierceness.
That sounds so awesome. So it sounds like you have a normal life, but also a very extravagant as far as, how should I say it, a more busy life, a busier life as far as business owner, mom, your normal day-to-day. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, good question. So, you know what? It really all depends on the day. Most days you can find me doing the things I love, which includes being a mom, being a present mom, as well as find me at a yoga studio. I'm an avid yogi. I love yoga. It's a huge piece of my self-nourishment routine. You can find me doing workshops or speaking engagements or therapy in our local public school system with young girls, teens, and then empowerment growth coaching for women, usually via Zoom online with women all over the country.
Awesome.
What else do I love to do? I love to be outside, sunshine. We just got back from the pool a couple hours ago. We're a big outdoor family. I love traveling. I love wellness, love holistic nutrition, and I love podcasts. So you'll often see me with earbuds and listening to a podcast.
Me too. I love travel. I love podcasts. Hey, we click. Yeah.
There you go.
And you notice I said that your life seems very extravagant, and I don't even know anything about your finances. But what I mean by extravagant is, even whether you're the poorest financially or you're the richest financially, it seems to me that extravagance means so much to so many different people. And for you, it just means, I think it means so much as far as career-wise, family-wise. It just seems like you have so much going for you in that realm, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Total abundance, really. We love abundance. We live with abundance and massive gratitude, and it's been quite the journey, which I know we'll get into a little bit, but definitely wake up with massive gratitude and a mindset of abundance.
Awesome. So what motivated you to start your business?
Yeah, I have always been a lover of people, a lover of relationships. I have always had a huge heart for empowerment. I've been through several. I think some will call it roadblocks. I just call it detours in my life that have really just kind of solidified my passion and my fire for empowerment. And I spent several years working in the public school system doing therapy as well as private practice therapy. And one common theme that showed up no matter what age group I was working with, no matter what setting I was working with, was the idea of self-worth and self-nourishment. And really women needing to be rooted in their own self-worth. And when we're rooted in our own self-worth, we don't attract unhealthy relationships. And when we're rooted in our own self-worth, we don't say yes to events and circumstances that don't serve us. And so I decided about 5 years ago that I was going to run with that idea of self-worth, and I created my Own Your Fierceness curriculum. And I decided I was going to jump in with 2 feet and follow my passion of empowering women to own their fierceness and engage in their self-worth and their self-nourishment.
That's awesome. And I would think that in today's society, that it is even more so important for us to recognize our self-worth as women, because of the fact that from day to day, it seems like women are getting busier and busier, and we're forgetting to try to find time for self-care.
Yes, absolutely. I get messages all the time from women asking, how can I be better about, implementing self-nourishment and self-care strategies into my daily routine? And I always say, you know what? It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a decision. It's a commitment. I schedule mine in just like I would schedule in a dentist appointment or a kid's physical appointment, at the doctor's office or a meeting, right? My self-nourishment and self-care is scheduled in because I know that is something that then allows me to serve others at a higher impact level.
Absolutely.
When I'm nourished myself.
Absolutely. We definitely have to care for ourselves in order to be able to pour out to others. Makes total sense.
Yes.
So now tell me, let's dive a little bit deeper into the discussion. You've had a few struggles in your life. Let's talk about those.
Yeah. So, I mentioned, I think sometimes we look at quote unquote roadblocks as kind of like stop signs, right? And I began looking at them really as detour signs. And now, as I've had some time through my own personal growth journey, which has been a pretty intense one over the last 4 years, I've really, really recognized the impact they've had as detours on my journey. And, I remember back when I was 16, I'm in my mid to late 30s now, but when I was 16 and I was kind of getting into the dating world, I found myself at a space of really low self-worth, and I was in a very unhealthy emotionally and verbally relationship. And it was a really challenging 2 years for me and for my parents. I look back on that experience, and that is really when my fire for empowerment and self-worth really kind of, for lack of a better term, really got stoked. My fire for fierceness and empowerment got stoked. And I remember from the age of 16 really feeling so powerful about that, and just wanting to do whatever I could to impact other girls and other teens. Fast forward a few years later, my husband and I had married, and we were, wanting to start a family quite quickly. And we found ourselves in a pretty tumultuous 3-year infertility journey. And that was really hard. I'd always wanted to be a mom. I have 2 sisters, and family has always been super important to me. And all of my friends were having babies, and my family members were having babies. And I'm a type A, if you're familiar with the color code. I'm a red. So I like routine. I like a plan. And so those couple years of infertility that led to several in vitro cycles was really hard for me. And it was a time where I really had to strengthen my faith. And I really had to strengthen my level of patience. As well as just trusting that God and the universe had a really big plan for me, and that this was just simply a detour. And so that was kind of the second quote unquote struggle that led me down a path of, again, self-worth and self-nourishment and empowerment, and really just having to plug into my own self-nourishment over that tumultuous 3 years of IVF. And, not shortly after, we then were blessed with our son and our 2 daughters, all within a 2.5-year time frame. My father, who I'm very close with, both my mom and my dad, but my dad was diagnosed with a blood cancer called multiple myeloma. And it was a shock. My dad is a very healthy, early 60s, college football, and took wellness very serious, and he was diagnosed with cancer. And my husband and I lived away from our family at that time, and again, a detour that reminded me the power of being present, a detour that reminded me the power of family and close relationships and of quality time. If you're familiar with the love languages, quality time is one of them. And it just was a huge detour that reminded me of the impact of quality time. And sure enough, we put our house on the market and moved, both without jobs, and moved back home, close to our parents, my dad and my mom. And we've been here now for close to 5 years, and it's been such a blessing. My dad's doing amazing, but I've been available physically for everything through his treatment, and that's been such a blessing, for myself and for our children to be able to grow up so close to both of them. And that is really around the time 4 years ago when my own really intense personal growth journey started. I committed to holistic nutrition and whole body wellness, and it really changed me from the inside out. It's really opened up so many doors in terms of opportunities and relationships and collaboration with some like-minded women, that has just put me on such a beautiful path of really being open to the detours, where before I would have really viewed them as struggles.
Absolutely, makes sense. And with that being said, I can only imagine, and no, let me back up. I can't imagine the struggles of infertility. That has to be crushing, and then so challenging. And it seems like you took the challenge head on, and look, you've got 3 beautiful children now. And then also, I can relate though to having a sick parent. As I had mentioned to you earlier, prior to the show, both of my parents are deceased, and my mom, she suffered with COPD for years. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, she had a lung transplant and graciously lived 3 years after that. And that's a wonderful thing. Organ donation for her was a wonderful thing. But at the same time, after she, was watching someone suffer, especially a close someone, anybody, it's really tough. And whenever it's your own parent, I know it's really tough. So you being able to be close to your parents and your children to be able to make those memories with your parents, that's wonderful. So what's one positive thing you would take away from your struggles? What would you take away from that?
Yeah, I love this question. There's, when I think back, there's just so many learning lessons, really, and just, so much in the moment, all the listeners I think will agree, it's hard. Like you're saying, it's hard in the moment, right? But looking back, there's so many blessings. And a few of those blessings really have been, again, I mentioned my faith, really just trusting that God has such a big plan for each one of us, right? We're so uniquely knitted. Our gifts are so uniquely knitted, and we have so many gifts. And without some of those detours, I firmly believe our gifts will never shine. Our gifts will never be brought to the forefront to our consciousness, right? So, faith, as well as just trusting that, the path in front of us is the one that's meant to be, the one that's laid out for us. And then patience, of course, knowing that part of the journey is the little lessons that we learn along the way, right? And those kind of themes continue to show up in my own personal growth journey and in my own life, even over the course of the last 4 years, right? But I do view them as like abundant life lessons.
Absolutely. And how do you think that you've used these to benefit others? How do you think your struggles have benefited for other women, for other?
Yeah, it's really they've really just allowed me to show up, fully authentic who I am, and sharing my story, and just showing up, as my true self, and staying rooted in knowing that we're all in this together. I mean, everybody can relate, right? We have so much in common, but just oftentimes we're so unwilling to talk about those pieces that we have in common. And so it's just been, it's allowed me to empower other women to share their story, and that their story matters. It's allowed me, like I said, to do workshops and speaking gigs and write a curriculum, and, just bless so many other women who in return have blessed me, with messages that they've needed to hear and that I've needed to hear.
Absolutely. Life is just like one huge learning curve, It's just, you may be going in it to teach someone something, and you may learn something from them, and our struggles, they're lessons to be learned too, in a huge way, and they help us to develop our character even more. And they strengthen us even more, so I totally get that. I agree. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit of fun things now. Tell me your favorite book or your favorite movie.
Okay, well, let's see. I'll go with book. I'm not a movie watcher.
Okay.
It's really interesting. One of the kind of quirky things about me is I actually have not had TV in almost 10 years.
Wow, that's kind of admirable.
I know. I have not really watched a movie. I recently just watched the Brene Brown Netflix documentary, which is fantastic, by the way. If you've not watched that documentary,
I haven't.
Watch that.
So maybe I need to do that.
Anyway, so I'll do books.
Okay.
I would say I love The Desire Map by Danielle Laporte. It's so good. It talks about really attaching feelings to your goals, really identifying your core feelings that you're really yearning for, and then leading with those core feelings when you're saying yes or you're saying no to something or someone. And then secondly, I would say Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's one of my favorite books.
Oh, wow. So I'll have to check into those. I hadn't heard of either of those. I need to check into those. That's
yeah, they're both fabulous.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Let's go on down. What do you have for dinner tonight, or what are you having for dinner tonight?
Oh my gosh, funny. It has been a crazy day. We just got home from the pool. It's one of the nicest days here in Chicago that it's been in several days. So I actually had a cookies and cream protein smoothie for dinner tonight, which was delicious. Usually that's my breakfast and lunch, but tonight it was my dinner.
So it was a crazy busy day, mom's life, right?
There you go. Real life. Authenticity always wins.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell me your favorite quote or your favorite scripture or both, and tell me why.
Yeah, I'll say quote. I love, I have so many, but I'll choose two. Actually, I'll choose three if that's okay.
Okay.
I love, they're very simple, but the first one is keep it simple. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. And that applies to everything. Secondly, it would be leaders go first. We need so many leaders in this world, and those that are willing to go first are so brave and so courageous. So leaders go first. And then the third one, again, very simple, is your story matters. We have that hanging in our house. Everybody has a story. Never be ashamed. Story matters.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody's story matters, and I think that's a huge, a huge thing that a lot of people, not intentionally, but they'll go and just live life day to day, mundane, just doing what they have to do, and they don't realize that they're writing their story. You need to.
And I love that you're giving people a platform to share their stories, which is so fabulous. So thank you for that.
Oh, I just love that I'm able to do this for those out there that, I just wanted to encourage so many out there, because I know that all of us have our own struggles, our own accomplishments, and I just want us all to be able to connect at that level,
Yes.
So I think that's really important. Okay, who's your role model and why?
Oh gosh, my mom. My mom would definitely be my role model. My mom, it was just Mother's Day a few weeks ago, and I did a lot of just reflecting on my mom, and I think when I became a mom, I fully appreciated the gratitude I have for my mom. My mom is amazing. My mom lost her mom when she was 8 to a sudden blood clot. And she was raised by her dad along with her 3 sisters. My grandpa eventually remarried, who has been my grandma, my whole life, who we love dearly. So my mom grew up without her biological mom for most of her life, and without a female parent for most of her life. And then when my mom was pregnant with my older sister, who's 5 years older than me, my mom lost her hearing. She lost a majority of her hearing, and she had a cochlear implant, and it was a really trying time for my mom. There was a lot of I remember a lot of fear. Again, one of those detours, right? A lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of feelings of self-consciousness. She couldn't hear in groups of people or on the telephone. And so I watched my mom go through those things. And I remember after I had our son, Gino, 8 years ago, I remember just thinking how much grit and how much resiliency my mom has, and how much she must have had to get through those detours in her life. So I would say my mom is by far, hands down, my #1 role model.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, how did you celebrate Mother's Day? How did you do that? You were talking about Mother's Day. How did you celebrate?
Yeah, we celebrated with family. So again, one of the reasons we love living here and being present near my parents, we had a cookout at their house with my sister and her kids, and my other sister, and my husband and I, and our 3 kids, and just celebrated being present and hanging out and making memories and celebrating each other. So it was a beautiful, beautiful Mother's Day here.
Awesome.
In Illinois.
Absolutely. So now, let's do a few other fun questions, and then I want to get back on a little bit more of your story. Just kind of a few fun, laid back things here. Are you currently reading anything now? I know that we just talked about books. Are you currently reading anything now?
Yeah, so I'm reading, it's called Simple Abundance. It's a daily devotional. So I'm reading that every morning. I also do meditation every morning. And then I am I think I mentioned, a huge avid podcast listener. So Oprah's Soulful Sunday podcast with Eckhart Tolle. It's a 13 chapter podcast. So there's 13 podcast episodes, and he's being interviewed about his book called The Power of Now, on staying present and open to your unconsciousness. And so that is my podcast that I'm listening to every morning for, probably the last 4 weeks.
So we were talking about books. We were talking about podcasts. Is that your favorite pastimes? Or do you have other pastimes, or is that how you spend most of your time?
Yeah, most of my time when I'm traveling is, whether that's driving from appointment to appointment or on an airplane, is podcasts. If I'm running, it's podcasts. Otherwise, I think I mentioned on my intro, I love yoga. I love fitness. I love being outside. I love girls' nights out. Those are all huge parts of my self-nourishment every single week. So I'm very intentional, but definitely podcasts. I do a lot of books on audio. But my Simple Abundance is every morning with my meditation.
Awesome. Okay. So, do you have a favorite recipe? You being a mom and...
Oh my gosh, I'm just going to get real with you. I don't cook.
And that's totally okay.
I don't cook.
There are some moms that don't.
The grill is about all I cook.
Hey, I love the grill. I love it, especially during the summer months. You're not having to, heat up the house from cooking, girl, I get you.
Yeah, I don't cook, but I love to eat.
Me too.
Cooking is not my thing.
All right, and let's do a little bit of just for fun. Beach or mountains?
Ooh, beach. I am beach. Sun is a huge energizer for me, so I am a beach girl for sure.
What's your favorite beach so far?
Gosh, I would say anything by the ocean. We're going to Jamaica right after Christmas this year, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I will say, we go to Arizona every year too, and there's no beach there, but I've hiked Camelback Mountain several times, and it's very beautiful. But I'm definitely a sun, sand, and beach girl.
Awesome. And another fun one, sweet or sour?
Ooh, I'm probably a sour. If I had to throw a third in, it would be a crunchy carbohydrate for sure.
I love lemons. People would be like, "What in the world? Put some salt on that," and I will eat that up. I know it sounds weird, but it's true.
No, I get it.
Summer or winter?
Definitely summer. Definitely summer. This winter in Chicago was very, very hard for me. It was a rough one, but I'm definitely a summer. I probably need summer 365 days a year.
I get you. Okay, and we just mentioned that you loved books. I was going to ask you a book or movie, but okay. So what is, as far as favorite pastimes with your family, we talked about pastimes for you. What do you like to do with your family, and how do you kind of prioritize that time?
Yeah, we love to travel. We have had the opportunity to travel quite a bit in the last 5 years. We own a healthy lifestyle brand called Happy Healthy Fit. And so we travel with our wellness company quite often here in the States. So we love to take our kids with us, and we travel all over. We also we live here near Starved Rock State Park. So we love to hike with our kids. Our son is a huge sports fanatic, so we do a lot of baseball. Awesome. We do a lot of football. We do a lot of hockey. We are a big outdoors family. We bike rides.
That's great.
We are outside as often as we can.
Absolutely. So you try to schedule that time in there for family as much as possible then.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. So how do you effectively manage and balance work time and home life? How do you balance that?
Yeah, that's a great question. when I get asked this question, I think I always want to give people permission that it's an evolution. The same balance for one person is not going to be the same for the next. And quite frankly, a balance for me, doesn't really exist. I don't, when I was attaching kind of balance to expectation for me, I would feel very overwhelmed. Guilt would set in, in different seasons of my life. My priorities have looked differently. When work is busy and I have a lot of workshops and speaking gigs and travel going on, I spend a lot of time in preparation, and I spend a lot of time on Zoom calls, and I spend a lot of time in airports and pouring into other women. And my husband takes a lot of behind the scenes childcare kind of tasks. And then in a different season of my life right now, we're getting ready for summer. My son plays on 2 baseball teams, and one is a travel team. And so in this season of life, it's been a lot of family time. My kids are wrapping up a school year, and I want to be present for that. So it really depends on the seasons, but I definitely always try to be very cognizant about my own self-nourishment. And communication with my husband on our time as well is something that we always try to be very mindful of, no matter what season we're in.
Absolutely. And I think that's very important as well. That's very important for someone to prioritize as much as possible. That way we're not just lost in task, but we actually get things done with family and in life too, basically. So that's
absolutely
really important. Yes. So let me ask, as far as home life, what is a good tip that you can give our listeners as far as organization, cleaning? What's something that you find helpful for you?
Oh gosh, I think one of the biggest and best decisions I made as a business owner and a mom of 3, and very active in our community, is I hired someone to clean our house. It was a great outsourcing decision. She's wonderful. And that took a lot of it. I try to really, for lack of a better word, outsource a lot of things that don't feel joyful for me. So cleaning is one of them. I mentioned I don't like to cook, so my husband does a majority of the cooking, or somewhere else does a majority of the cooking. So really like identifying what does not feel joyful for you, and then allowing that to feel joyful for someone else. I love that our cleaning lady, I can hire her and compensate her to come and do something that she finds extremely joyful.
Absolutely.
And so those would be like tips that I would offer someone who really is just looking to kind of get some things off their plate that maybe feels overwhelmed. As far as like parenting, which is a huge part of our home life, it's really just, and maybe this is the social worker in me, but really just taking time to, just understand your kiddos, understand that oftentimes they're feeding off of your energy, right? And so keep your energy vibration in check, because they feel that, and involve them in as much as you can. My kids are very used to traveling with us for business. They're very used to sitting in, in fact, one just came in now, sitting in on Zoom calls. They're very used to going to, workshops with me, and just trying to include them into your everyday life as often as possible.
Absolutely. So tell me, what is one unique thing that others may not know about you? What's one thing that you can share with us?
Yeah, I have a twin sister.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a twin sister. Her name is Jessica, and I have twins.
Hey, great name.
Yeah. So,
and you have twins. So yeah.
So I am a twin, so I know what that bond is with twins, and that incredible experience of having a built-in best friend, right? And then having our Josie and Ellery, and just watching them experience that same thing has been super unique.
That's awesome. I've heard that twins are super close a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell me, let's get back on a little bit more of a serious note. What is one of your biggest regrets in life?
Oh gosh. I wish I would have traveled more in my 20s. I wish I would have studied abroad when I was in college. I wish I would have really taken the opportunity to see different cultures, different parts of the world, meet people living in different circumstances, just to kind of get that hands-on knowledge and that hands-on experience. I did not do that in my 20s, and it really didn't start traveling until my early 30s. But I wish I would have done that more in my 20s.
Absolutely. Traveling is such a great thing to be able to explore. It really is. I get you. So your struggles, we talked about them a little bit already. Tell me, although it was, and with your dad being with cancer, it is a struggle. Would you, if you could, would you change what's happened to you, or are you glad that you've went through this to develop who you are now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, I think it's easy to say, oh, I wish, that traumatic relationship didn't happen, or infertility didn't happen, or I wish I didn't have to see someone I love, have to deal with cancer. But I think the truth is, when we sit in a space of acceptance and we sit in a space of gratitude, again, knowing that without those detours and without those experiences, I certainly would not be the wife or the mom or the growth coach or the woman that I am today. And so I really try to stay rooted in that sense of abundance and gratitude, knowing that that is part of the plan. And as much as I might have wished that those things didn't happen, the truth is it is part of the plan. And without those things happening, I would not be blessed with what I've been blessed with today. So I don't know that I would have changed anything.
Awesome. Because they've developed you, they've developed who you are. And by developing who you are, it's also helped as far as to be able to encourage others and to develop them and who they are. And it's kind of like a cycle,
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So tell me, what do you think your greatest accomplishment is up to this point?
Oh yeah, definitely being a mom. Yeah, definitely being a mom. Being a parent is one of the hardest jobs, but one of the most rewarding jobs. And I think every parent is an amazing rock star. And going through infertility really just set the tone for my parenting, and I'm super grateful for that. I people will oftentimes say to me, you're such a relaxed parent. You're so go with the flow. And truthfully, because I remember what it felt like to maybe not have the opportunity to be a mom. And I don't take that for granted. And so pregnancies were a beautiful journey for me. Definitely the hard moments of first time becoming a mom, just like everybody else. But it has definitely shaped me into being the kind of mom that I am, not sweating the small stuff, keeping it simple, right? Keeping it in perspective. And I'm super proud of that. That is definitely one of my greatest accomplishments is, being the mom that I am today, for sure.
Awesome. So we talked about how you outsourcing your cleaning for your home was a great decision for you as a business owner, but let's talk more on the professional side. What is your best business and or career tip? What's the best tip that you can give for business owners or those who have work even outside of the home? What's your best tip?
Ooh, oh my gosh, that's like so many. I love giving business tips. Such a good question. And you know me, I can't stop at one. I would say, oh my gosh, definitely collaboration, definitely getting to know other business owners, collaborating, living in a space of collaboration over competition for sure, as well as I am a huge proponent and a huge believer in, of course, moving forward with what fuels your passion and your fire and what really fills your cup and using your gifts, but also being open to, from a business perspective, being open to multiple streams of income, especially nowadays. Multiple streams of income have been such a blessing for our family, and we have so many gifts, each of us, and to be able to use those gifts in multiple ways to bless even enormous amounts of people is truly so rewarding.
Absolutely. I totally get where you're coming from. I think that each of us have our own unique gift or gifts. And without us using those, them going stagnant, so to speak, and not using those is just a shame. It's a disservice not only to ourselves, but to the world as well. And we should definitely use our own unique gifts. Absolutely. So wrapping up, I do appreciate you so much for talking with me today and being on the show. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about where they can find you after the show? Any websites, any social media, whatever you want to share?
Yeah, sure. This was so fun. Thank you so much for having me. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Kudos to you for creating a platform for people to share their stories. That's such a beautiful thing. So you can, listeners can find me on my website, which is www.jamie, Jamie, Lynn, Lyn, Taylor, Taylor.com. They can also find me on Facebook, Jamie Stewart, Stuart, Taylor, Taylor, or on Instagram at Jamie Lynn, Lyn, Taylor, Taylor.
Awesome. So there you have it. And I certainly appreciate you chatting with me. And I certainly wish you well and much success with your business. And I wish your dad well. And I'm inspired by your story. Thank you for chatting with me.
Oh, and thank you for having me. And I look forward to keeping in touch and collaborating more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
And did someone say bloopers?
But I'm cool recording it. I just want to be sure my husband isn't home and I have 3 kids that I just tucked into bed. So if we can record it now, that's perfectly fine. I just want to make sure that you have editing backup if for some reason you have.
Sure, absolutely. And I want it to be natural anyhow.
Okay.
That way, that way if something happens that, they end up in the background or something, I want it to be natural. I want it to be real life.
I kind of got that vibe. So I have no problem recording it now. I can certainly, let me just shut this window so that we don't get too much background noise.
Sure.
Okay.
Ready?
All
right. Okay. And I will go ahead and start us off. Give me just a minute. Welcome to Gracious Girls Podcast with Jessica Long. Let me try that again. It's Jessica Lynn. That's my last name. Retake. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.